The earthy scent of wet soil and crushed pine clung to every breath I took as I stumbled forward, shoved by unseen hands that left aching bruises across my shoulders. Moonlight bled through the towering forest canopy, casting long, claw-like shadows that seemed to crawl toward me. The woods weren't just alive with wind, they were whispering. Real whispers. From the wolves surrounding me, voices laced with contempt and thinly veiled interest. "She won't make it," someone muttered loud enough not to care if I heard. "Waste of breath," another sneered. Raised human. Barely a flicker of blood left in her. I kept my eyes locked on the uneven ground, my pale blonde hair veiling my face. It was better this way. Let them see grit, not the fear threatening to spill into tears. The pack respected nothing but strength, and I'd already been judged and found lacking. My fingers curled around the smooth pendant resting against my collarbone, the last thing Maivy Moonrest gave me before she passed. She'd gripped my hand on her deathbed, eyes so like mine, dull with pain, but burning with urgency. "When they come for you, Sira," she rasped, "remember who you are beneath the flesh. Blood calls to blood." I hadn't understood her then. Thought the medication had blurred her mind. But 3 days after we buried her, they came. Massive figures with glowing animal eyes and fluid predator movements. Men like living shadows. Women who moved with grace, but whose edges betrayed the beasts beneath their skin. The group slowed as we entered a clearing, and the crowd opened like a wound. For the first time I saw the altar. It wasn't placed there. It had risen, grown like it belonged to the earth. A monstrous slab of obsidian that drank the moonlight instead of reflecting it. Symbols ancient and vicious curled over its surface. And just looking too long at them made my vision spin. Beside it stood a man carved from midnight, broad-shouldered, towering, his dark hair matching the altar stone itself. Eyes that flickered between storm gray and molten amber under the moonlight. And even before anyone said his name, I knew. Kyle Duskthorn, Alpha of the Northern Territories. Ruler of the largest pack across 3 states. The one who ordered me dragged here. His gaze caught mine, and I felt something inside me recoil, scrambling for cover. But another piece, a wilder forgotten piece, rose instead, squaring my shoulders, refusing to look away. I settled for focusing just past him. "So this is Varin Stormvale's granddaughter," he said. His voice was deep, smooth, dangerous, like warm whiskey laced with threat. It wasn't a question. Still I nodded. "Yes," I said, surprised that my voice didn't betray me. "Do you know why you're here, Sira?" "Coldmere." I swallowed hard. "You think I'm like you? Because of my grandfather?" A ripple of cruel laughter passed through the pack. My cheeks flushed hot. Clearly I'd said something naive. Kale didn't laugh. He just watched me, unreadable. "Varin wasn't like us," he said. "He was the last pure vessel of the Lunar line, the oldest blood we have. His daughter, your mother, threw it all away when she ran off with a human." His eyes darkened. "We lost her trail for years. Found her again after she died in that crash. And now, here you stand." My chest tightened. My mother had never mentioned her family, always changed the subject. After the accident, I'd tracked down my grandmother through public records, only to find cancer had claimed her too. The months I had with Maivy were full of strange stories I'd chalked up to morphine and old age, shapeshifters, lunar blood, moon magic. Now I knew they weren't stories. "I'm human," I said firmly, though something deep in me whispered otherwise. Kale's mouth curled into a cold smile that didn't touch his eyes. "We'll let the altar decide. If there's enough of Varin's blood in you," he continued, "the altar will recognize it. And if it doesn't," I asked barely above a whisper. That smile of his, wide and predatory. "Then tonight ends badly for you." A woman stepped forward, then her copper-red hair glinting like flame in the moonlight. Unlike the others, her gaze wasn't cold or indifferent. It was full of open hatred. This is a waste of time, Kael, she said, her voice honeyed but sharp. Look at her. She's shaking like prey. Even if she's got a flicker of the bloodline, she's too weak to be useful. Your concern is noted. Nyla Greymire, Kyle answered coolly, still watching me. But the law is clear. All bloodline descendants must be tested. The council had made the ruling. No dissent. Nyla Greymire's eyes sharp and green as polished jade narrowed at me. They're desperate, she said, her voice slicing the silence. The Silverbloods gain ground with every moon. They've already claimed half the eastern territories, and now they're pressing into our borders. The plague stole too many of our warriors. They smell weakness. She turned toward Kael Duskthorn, challenge blazing in her gaze. And they're not wrong. A muscle twitched in Kael's jaw. Steel tension. That's why every potential weapon matters, he said. Even one with thinned blood could tip the scales. He extended his hand toward me. Kamalara. The altar waits. My legs locked up like stone, but I forced them forward. Each step was a mountain. The pack shifted behind me, their presence sealing off any retreat. Not that I could run, not through this forest, not from wolves. The pendant at my neck, the one Myvi Moonrest, pressed into my hand with her final breath, radiated heat. The closer I got to the altar, the more it pulsed. The obsidian monolith shimmered in the moonlight, its surface vibrating with an eerie hum. I could feel it deep in my bones, a frequency below sound, primal and ancient. Place your hands on the altar, Kael said, voice softer now, almost kind. If the bloodline is in you, it will know. I stared at the black stone, my reflection warped across its surface. For one breath, I wondered what would happen if I said no, but I already knew. This wasn't a crowd built for mercy. Drawing in a breath that tasted like thunder, I raised my hands and pressed both palms to the stone. For a second there was nothing, no reaction. Relief flickered. Disappointment followed. Then everything detonated. Light, pain, fire. It surged through me, starting at my hands and searing through my arms, molten lightning in my veins. I tried to pull away, but the altar held me fast. My skin felt welded to it. A scream tore loose from my throat just as the altar flared with a harsh blue-white blaze, brighter than any moonlight. Somewhere distant, someone was shouting. The earth trembled. The ancient symbols began to glow, runes crawling with light, spiraling inward toward my palms. The heat should have burned me alive, but it didn't. Instead, it felt like something was being torn away, stripped, burned clean. Layers of me, of what I thought I was. Impossible. I heard Nyla breathe. Through the haze, I caught a glimpse of Kael's face. Shock and reverence warred in his expression. Full activation, he murmured. It hasn't happened in 5 generations. Then just like that, the fire was gone. The glow didn't vanish. It sank into my flesh, racing up my arms in streaks of blue light that mirrored my veins. A rhythm pounded in my chest. 2 heartbeats, one old, one new, like something ancient waking inside me. When I pulled my hands back, the stone released me, easily. My palms pulsed with luminous symbols, echoes of the altar etched into my skin. The clearing was silent. Not with peace, but with awe, with fear, and in some recognition. Kael stepped closer, his eyes locked on my glowing hands. The altar has spoken, he said, voice deep and clear. The bloodline lives, and it rises. He dropped to one knee, head bowed. All around the circle others followed, some slow, some fast. All fell, except Nyla. She stayed standing, fury etched across her face. What is happening? I whispered. My voice was deeper. Strange. My own, but not. Kael lifted his gaze, and for the first time I saw something in his eyes I hadn't expected. Respect. You're not just of the bloodline, Sira, he said. You are its strongest echo in a century. A real smile, soft but undeniable, touched his lips. Varen Stormvale's legacy was more powerful than any of us knew. The light in my arms dimmed, but it still felt that second rhythm, beating beside my own. Then exhaustion hit like a wave, dragging me under. My knees buckled. Kyle caught me moving with the impossible speed of his kind. He lifted me like I weighed nothing. "It takes a toll," he murmured, cradling me. "Rest now. We'll talk when you wake." As darkness wrapped around me, I saw over his shoulder. Nyla Greymeyer's face twisted in something darker than hate. Calculated, cold, and I knew. I hadn't just awakened something. I'd made an enemy who wouldn't rest until it was snuffed out. In that single heartbeat, I understood with painful clarity I'd just awakened a threat far greater than I could see. "Blood calls to blood," I whispered into the void, Maeve Moonrest's words, echoing like a warning as the darkness swallowed me whole. I came to wrapped in sensations that weren't mine. Silk brushed against my skin. The air held the grounding scent of cedar and sage. But most unsettling was the sound, steady, rhythmic. A heartbeat. Not mine, and not Cale Duskthorn's. He wasn't here. This beat came from within, yet beside me. A twin rhythm pulsing beneath my ribs like a ghost heart stirring awake. Golden sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, lighting a room far too luxurious for anything I'd ever known. Walls paneled in deep walnut, tapestries of forests and running wolves hung like relics from another time. A fire crackled low in a hearth of polished stone despite the warmth outside. I sat up slowly, breath catching as I realized I wasn't in my own clothes. A plain white nightgown had replaced everything I wore the night before. A shiver ran down my spine at the thought of unfamiliar hands. I looked at my palms, expecting to see the glowing marks from the altar seared into my skin. But they were blank, smooth, pale. Had it all been a fever dream? No. That second heartbeat was still there, and when I focused inward, I felt something more, a current of awareness. Like unseen threads extended beyond the walls of this place, connecting me to something, someone. The door creaked open. A young woman entered balancing a tray. Petite, dark hair braided neatly down her back, movements quick and practiced. She froze when she saw me awake, then dipped into a startled bow. "Forgive me, my lady. I didn't know you'd woken." Her warm brown eyes swept over me with open curiosity. "I'm Lyra Windell. The Alpha assigned me to be your attendant." "Attendant." I echoed the word, tasting old and strange. "Where am I Ravenwood Keep?" she said, setting the tray down on a side table. "The Alpha's home." She pulled back the thick curtains, flooding the room with sunlight. "You've been unconscious for nearly 20 hours. The Alpha was concerned. 20 hours I tried to absorb, that watching her pour steaming tea into a carved mug. "The awakening pulls a lot from the body," she added, handing it to me. "Especially one like yours." There was awe in her voice, real and unfiltered. I accepted the mug, inhaling the unfamiliar scent. Herbal. Earthy. "What happened to me last night, Lyra? What did that altar do?" She hesitated, perching on the edge of a nearby chair. "I don't know if I'm the right one to explain," she said carefully. "The Alpha gave orders to alert him as soon as you stirred." "Please," I said, desperation leaking into my voice. "I need to understand something before I face him again." She glanced toward the door, then leaned in. "The Bloodline altar," she whispered, "was built by the first pack, long before our time. It reveals the truth. The core of someone's blood. How much remains from the original lines? After centuries of mixing." Her voice dropped lower. "No one's ever activated it like you did. Not in our living memory. The marks that showed on your skin, they belong to the founders." My hand trembled. Tea sloshed dangerously near the rim. I set the mug down slowly. "And what does that make me?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Lyra opened her mouth to reply, then froze. Footsteps echoed just outside. She stood in a flash, smoothing her dress. The Alpha comes. The door opened without ceremony. Kale Duskthorn stepped into the room. In daylight, he was sharper, larger than life. His dark jeans and charcoal Henley made him look deceptively simple, but the force radiating off him said otherwise. 2 others followed. One older, graying at the temple's glasses perched on his nose. The other young, with enough of Kale's bone structure to hint at shared blood, but without the Alpha's intensity. "Leave us," Kale said. Lyra bowed quickly and slipped out. His gaze landed on me, sharp and evaluating. "How do you feel?" Confused, I admitted. "Something's happening to me, and I don't know what it means." The older man stepped forward, eyes gleaming with interest. "Fascinating," he muttered, voice low. "The resonance patterns are still active, even after the visible phase." He turned to Kael. "May I?" At Kael's nod, the man approached with a measured step. "I'm Thorn Verillo, pack historian, lorekeeper." He offered a small smile. "With your permission, I'd like to examine your hands." Cautiously, I extended them. His touch was light, but his fingers moved with intent. Turning my palms upward, he studied them with reverent precision. "Extraordinary Thorn Verillo," murmured awe in his voice. "The markings may no longer be visible, but I can still feel them etched beneath the skin." His eyes sparkled with academic delight as he looked up at me. "Have you sensed it yet? The pack link? The what?" I asked, blinking. "The tether. To the pack. To the land." He gently pressed 2 fingers to my wrist like testing a pulse. The dual heartbeats stabilized. Resonance is perfect. I pulled my hands back, unnerved by his excitement. "I don't understand any of this." A short chuckle broke the tension. The younger man, the one who came in with them, stepped forward. "Welcome to the chaos," he said with a grin. "Thorn's been bouncing off the wall since last night. I haven't seen him this jazzed since he dug up those old scrolls in the southern ridge." He extended a hand that grinned, softening the sharp lines of his face. "Riker Ashvale, Kale's brother, beta of the pack. I'm the Ravenwood that won't scare you on sight." Kale Duskthorn gave him a sidelong look of calm disapproval, but didn't argue. Instead, he turned back to me. "Thorn has spent decades researching bloodlines," Kale said. "What happened at the altar? It rewrites everything we thought we knew." Thorn nodded eagerly. "The altar was meant to reveal shifter lineage, trace elements of the original bloodlines. Most subjects show a shimmer at best, a little flicker. But you—" He exhaled in wonder. "Full activation. The kind we haven't seen since the Great Division. When the bloodlines first fractured, I turned to Kael. His steady presence grounded me more than I wanted to admit." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," Kael said quietly, "you carry the purest expression of the lunar bloodline we've seen in centuries. Varen Stormvale must have known. That's why he hid your mother, why we never knew you existed. But I'm human," I protested. Heart hammering. "I've never shifted. I've never felt anything, Wolf. Transformation is just one thread in the tapestry," Thorn explained. "Bloodline traits show in other ways. Heightened instincts, rapid healing, unique gifts. The lunar lineage was revered for its strength in forging pack bonds, binding and amplifying the connection between members." Kael's face remained unreadable. "And now the Silverbloods will feel it," he said. The altar's pulse radiated across miles. Every shifter near us felt it. Questions are already rising. My blood ran cold. "Who are they?" I asked. "Nyla mentioned them last night." Riker's smile vanished. "Purists. They believe only unmixed bloodlines should lead. Anyone else should follow or disappear." Thorn picked up the thread. "Their leader, Malric Frosklin, claims Arctic lineage. He's created ways to trace bloodlines, to find threats or assets." "And what am I?" I whispered. Kale didn't blink. Both, he said flatly. To us, you are hope, a living link to ancient strength. To them, you're either a weapon to claim or a danger to destroy. The weight of it all pressed into my chest heavy as that second heartbeat, now humming beneath my ribs. I didn't ask for this, I murmured. 2 days ago I was just a graphic designer with a cat and rent due. Then it hit me. Caesar. My cat, he's still in my apartment. No one's fed him. Riker chuckled. Kale's expression softened barely, but enough that I noticed. He's here, along with your belongings. He's currently terrorizing the kitchen staff. The unexpected thoughtfulness caught me off guard. Thank you, I said quietly, and meant it. Thorn cleared his throat. While your cat's well-being is of course a priority, he said dryly, you have much to learn. The awakening was only the beginning. You'll need training urgently. Training, I echoed. For what exactly? The truth was beneath the fear. Something else had begun to bloom. Something wild, something awake. There was something fluttering inside me, and I hated how much it felt like anticipation. I don't feel different, I said slowly, my hand drifting to my sternum. Except for this. I pressed my palm over the strange rhythm. 2 heartbeats, steady, and in sync. That's your bloodline, waking up, Thorn Verilo explained, eyes gleaming with fascination. The dual heartbeat is a physical echo of your transformation. The abilities will come later gradually. Your body's adjusting. He paused. The old texts say, carriers of the lunar bloodline could strengthen pack bonds. Some could even forge new ones, which is exactly why your training begins today, Kyle Duskthorn cut in, his tone cool and absolute. This isn't a suggestion. He glanced toward his brother. Riker will take you around once you're dressed. Thorn will guide you through the bloodline lore. Physical combat. That's mine. The way he said it sent a chill down my spine, and not entirely from fear. Don't worry, Riker, Ashvale added with a lopsided grin catching my expression. He doesn't eat new recruits for breakfast. That's more of a lunch thing. Kale ignored the jab voice steady. You have 1 hour. Clothes have been brought in. Use the time wisely. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. The awakening shifted your status in the pack. Some will respect that. Others won't. Proceed accordingly. And with that thinly veiled warning, he stepped out. Thorn trailing behind him and already throwing out excited questions, too fast to catch. Riker lingered. Ignore his bark, he said lightly. He's been alpha since our father passed 10 years ago. He forgets not everyone is giving orders or bleeding on his floor. He reached for the doorknob, then hesitated. Just for the record, you're doing better than most would. Hell, most people would be in a full-blown panic by now. I offered a tired smile. The day's still young. His laugh was real, warm and easy. I'll be back in an hour. Try on the clothes. Lyra's got solid taste, and you're pretty close in size. Then his voice dropped to something quieter. And Sira, whatever happens out there, just know not everyone is like Kale. You've got allies here, even if you haven't met them yet. When the door closed behind him, silence crept in. I didn't move for a while, just let it all sit in my chest like a stone beside that second heartbeat, steady, but still foreign. Eventually I rose, my legs surprisingly solid beneath me. Against the far wall, a tall wardrobe held a small collection of clothes in my size: jeans, tees, soft sweaters, and even more formal things I didn't dare touch. I picked jeans and a sky blue sweater, grounding myself in the comfort of something simple familiar. As I pulled the sweater over my head, I caught sight of myself in the full-length mirror and froze. Same pale skin, same waterfall of blonde hair, same wide blue eyes, but not the same, not the beh. Something shimmered faintly beneath the surface of my skin. A quiet light that hadn't been there before. My gaze was sharper, brighter. I leaned closer. There you are, I whispered. Still you, still human. But even as the words left my mouth, that second heartbeat thumped slow and deliberate, like it disagreed. Outside the window, the world stretched wide gardens, folding into woods, the shadow of the mountains looming far in the distance. And somewhere out there, wolves ran on 4 legs. Bound by ancient rites and laws I barely understood. And now somehow I was one of them. I reached for Myvi Moonrest's pendant, feeling its comforting weight against my skin. What did you know? Grandma, I murmured. What couldn't you tell me? The room was silent. But something moved in the space between thought and instinct. A tug so faint it could have been imagined. I focused and felt them. Flickers of light. Dozens of them. Each one unique. The pack. I could feel them. The awareness staggered me back from the window, my hands clutching the sill as my pulse, both of them, raced. This was real. All of it. And there was no turning back. A soft knock at the door cut through the rush of sensation. Come in, I called, half expecting Lyra or Riker. Instead it was her, Nyla Greymire. She slipped inside, closing the door like a secret. Her copper-red hair was braided tight, highlighting the cold angles of her face. She wore sleek black pants and a forest green blouse that matched the venom in her eyes. Those eyes fixed on me now, glittering with calculation. So she said softly, voice like velvet over glass, "You're awake. How fortunate for all of us." Nyla Greymire said, her voice like honey, hiding barbed wire. The edge beneath her smooth tone wasn't subtle, it was sharp enough to cut. As we faced off, something inside me stirred. That second heartbeat quickened, responding to a threat I hadn't consciously recognized. But instinct had. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice even as she glided across the room like she owned it. Her fingers brushed the surfaces, light, deliberate, like a predator circling prey. "Oh, nothing urgent," she said airily. "Just feeding my curiosity. The long-lost granddaughter of Varen Stormvale waking powers, no one's seen in generations. It's practically folklore." She stopped, turning those emerald eyes on me. "It's a fairy tale, isn't it?" The hidden air returning to claim her place. I said nothing. This wasn't a conversation. It was a test. Every word between us was a move, and I didn't know the rules yet. Her smile sharpened teeth a little too perfect. "Kyle is many things," she said, voice dropping low, strong, strategic, brutal, when necessary. "But he has one fatal flaw: he believes in symbols." She stepped closer. I held my ground, though my every nerve screamed to back away. "That's all you are to him, you know. A symbol, a prophecy in flesh." "And what am I to you?" I asked tightly. Her smile widened like a blade unsheathed. "A mistake." Then before I could move, her hand darted out, fingers wrapping around the pendant at my throat. "This belonged to Stormvale, didn't it?" she whispered. "I'd know his work anywhere." I yanked back, breaking her grip. "Don't touch it." She looked amused, like I was a child clinging to a stuffed toy. "Do you even know what it is?" she asked. "Of course not." Varen hoarded his secrets like gold. It's a pity he's not here to watch his little legacy unravel. Or maybe it's better this way. He won't see it all come crashing down. She would have kept going, needling, twisting. But a knock at the door cut her off. Riker Asheville stepped in, the lightness in his smile fading the instant he saw Nyla. "Counselor Greymire," he greeted, tone deliberately neutral. "Didn't know you had business here. Just making sure our guest feels welcome," she said sweetly. "We all want Sira to settle in, don't we?" She started toward the door, but paused beside me. A word of advice, she murmured low enough that only I could hear. "Don't mistake interest for acceptance. At the end of the day, we're still animals, and instincts always win." Then she slipped out, leaving behind the faint scent of snow and something sharp, metallic, like blood. Riker watched her leave, his expression tight. "So, you've met our head counselor. Hospitable as a snake," I muttered. "She doesn't dislike you," he said. "She hates anyone who threatens her hold on power. And right now, that's you." He tipped his head toward the hallway. "Ready for that tour? Might help to get some air and see what you're really walking into here." I nodded, more than ready to shake off Nyla's lingering chill. Ravenwood Keep unfolded like a world stitched together from two different centuries, ancient stone towers rising alongside sleek hallways with glass and steel. "The Pack's got structure," Riker explained as we walked. "Kyle is Alpha. I'm Beta. Beneath us are the Enforcers guys like Brax, Core, Dane. They keep things from falling apart." We passed warriors in training gear, counselors in quiet discussion, and regular Pack members with wary eyes. Some nodded, some just stared. Then you've got the council people like Nyla. They handle internal politics. And everyone else, the general Pack, merchants, teachers, builders. "Where do I fit?" I asked. He glanced sideways at me. "That's the real question. Bloodline bearers don't fit the chain of command. You're not above it, but you're not in it either. You exist outside the ladder, revered, resented, both." We stepped into a wide courtyard where bodies moved like lightning. Men and women sparring in the sun, striking, blocking, throwing each other with terrifying speed. "This is our training yard," Riker said. "Most of the Pack lives down in the valley. Day jobs, real lives. As real as it gets when you shift under moonlight." He gestured around the keep. "Leadership stays here. And those in training, like me," I said under my breath. "Like you," he confirmed. "But your path's going to be different." As we moved deeper into the grounds, he pointed out combat areas, council chambers, meditation spaces, housing wings. Everywhere we went, eyes followed. Some curious, some cautious. And in my chest, that second heartbeat never stopped. A quiet reminder I was one of them now, whether they liked it or not. I could feel them watching me. Whispers trailed behind us like smoke curling through the air. And that strange heartbeat inside me, the one not mine, but somehow mine, beat faster, pulsing with every stare, every curious or resentful glance. It was like the whole Pack could feel me, and I was feeling them right back. We just reached the edge of a sprawling garden when it hit me, a blast of pure hostility, so sudden and sharp it stole my breath. I turned. 3 men were walking toward us, casual in appearance, but every step radiated aggression. Predators in plain clothes. Riker Ashvale tensed beside me. "Dren," he said, flatly, acknowledging the man at the front with a clipped nod. "Something I can help you with." Dren Hollowfang, thick-built face, half-carved with a brutal scar, ignored Riker entirely. His eyes locked on me. "So this is Stormvale's hidden legacy," he said with a sneer. Not exactly what I expected. His tone dripped with mockery. "Watch your mouth." Riker warned, the usual ease gone from his voice. "You're speaking to a bloodline bearer. I see a half-breed who's never even shifted." Dren shot back. "So the altar lit up. Doesn't mean she belongs." He stepped closer, sniffing the air like an animal. "Still smells human to me. Something inside me, whatever had awakened the night of the altar, snapped. Before I even thought, I stepped forward, squaring up to him. "And you smell like insecurity and cheap cologne," I said, my voice calm and cold. "Looks like we both have things to work on." Riker made a sound that might have been a laugh strangled in his throat. Dren's eyes went wide, then narrowed to slits. "You should train your pet Beta," he growled, "before someone else does it for you." "Is that a threat?" I asked. The boldness in my voice surprised even me. "A promise," he replied, his eyes flashing with a sudden burst of amber. "Not just a man. A warning. Enough." Kale Duskthorn's voice cut clean through the air like a blade. He strode down the garden path, face thunderous. Back to your duties, Hollowfang. Dren's entire stance shifted. His shoulders dipped, his head lowered, but the resentment rolling off him was volcanic. Yes, Alpha, he muttered, glaring at me one last time before stalking off. His two companions fell in behind him like shadows. Once they were gone, Kyle turned to me. My apologies for the interruption, he said. Dren was close to Nyla's son, the one who died in the border raids. He shares her reservations. He's not alone, I murmured. Half the pack looks at me like I might explode. Kyle raised an eyebrow. Can you blame them? The altar's response to you was unprecedented. No one knows what you'll become, including you. Exactly, I said, softly. Something in my voice must have hit a chord. His jaw relaxed ever so slightly. The unknown is always feared. You included. That's why training starts now. He turned to Riker. Thorn is waiting in the library. Riker nodded. I'll take her. No, Kale said. You're needed at the northern perimeter. Another incursion. The brothers exchanged a heavy look, unspoken words passing between them. Then Riker turned to me with a half smile. Don't let Thorn bury you under 10 centuries of werewolf trivia. And for the record, he added with a wink, my brother may act like he's carved from obsidian, but rumor has it there's a pulse under there. Somewhere. He disappeared down the hall. Kale and I walked in silence. His stride was longer than Riker's, more forceful. I had to push just to keep up. Unlike Riker, he offered no commentary, no introductions to the rooms and people we passed. You could slow down, I muttered finally. The words slipped out before I could weigh them. He stopped abruptly. I nearly smacked into his back. You'll need to be faster than this, he said without turning. Stronger. Quicker. The Silverbloods won't wait for you to catch your breath. I didn't ask for any of this, I snapped. Now he turned slowly. His gaze pinned me in place. Those eyes, gray flint swirled with gold, looked like they saw through everything. None of us did, Sira, he said. We don't choose the blood in our veins, only what we do with it. Before I could fire back a retort, Kale Duskthorn turned and resumed walking, this time slowing just enough that I could actually keep pace. The library loomed ahead, massive and cathedral-like. Vaulted ceilings soared overhead, while ancient tomes shared shelf space with sleek modern volumes. Thorn Virilo was already there, surrounded by an avalanche of scrolls and open books. His excitement practically buzzed in the air. Ah, there you are, he exclaimed as we stepped in. I've been diving deep into everything we've got on the Lunar Bloodline. This material is remarkable. I'll leave you to it, Kyle said, already heading for the door. His gaze flicked to mine. Physical training starts at dawn. Sleep well. You'll need it. Then he was gone. Thorn gestured to a chair across from him. Please sit. We've got ground to cover. He slid a worn leather-bound journal across the table toward me. Your grandfather's personal records. Kale said you should have them. I stared at the book, like it might burn me. My fingers hesitated over the cracked leather. This was Varen Stormveil's, a man I'd never met, yet somehow felt like I'd always been chasing. Why would he give this to me? I asked quietly. Thorn adjusted his glasses. Maybe he believes that knowing your lineage is the key to unlocking your power. Or maybe... He paused, then added, maybe he thinks it belongs to you. Simple as that. I opened it slowly. The first page bore a bold, deliberate hand. The bloodline thins with every generation. Our link to the old power fades. I will find a way to preserve what remains so when the time comes our descendants will remember who they are beneath the skin. I froze. Remember who you are beneath the skin. Maivy Moonrest's words. She'd said them to me, prepared me in her own cryptic, painful way, while Thorn launched into the long, tangled history of shapeshifter clans, I felt it, that second heartbeat inside me, steady and urgent. Outside the walls of the library, I could sense the pack, their energies flickering in my awareness like candle flames. And further still, something darker, watching, waiting, the Silverbloods. They were coming, and somehow I knew they were coming for me. The days at Ravenwood Keep settled into a brutal rhythm. Dawn brought agony, sweat, dirt, pain. Kale's training sessions were merciless, pushing me beyond human limits, forcing me to run until my lungs burned, sparring until my arms trembled. Afternoons belonged to Thorn and his ever-growing pile of dusty books and forgotten legends. But most important of all was my grandfather's journal. It became my map, my compass to something ancient and alive inside me. Focus. Kale barked from across the training ring. 2 weeks had passed since the altar flare. My body still looked human, but inside everything was different. My senses had sharpened to a frightening degree. Scents told stories. Sounds traveled like threads through walls. And the second heartbeat, it was always there, a silent rhythm, rising to meet me in every breath. I am focusing. I snapped back, my voice raw with frustration. No, you're thinking. You're hesitating. Before I could react, he moved too fast to track and swept my legs clean out from under me. I hit the dirt hard, the wind knocked from my lungs. The bloodline isn't in your thoughts, Kyle growled. It's in your instincts. He extended a hand, a rare gesture. I hesitated only a moment before taking it. His grip was solid, warm, rough grounding. But when our palms touched, something else sparked. Not just awareness, recognition. Like that second heartbeat knew him. Again, he said, releasing me and falling back into a ready stance. I nodded, breath steadying. This time when he moved, something inside me rose to meet him. I didn't think, didn't analyze. I moved. My body twisted out of his reach with fluid ease. Kael's eyes flickered just for a moment. Surprise. Better, he said quietly. Now hit me. I hesitated. Attacking him always ended with pain, but the presence inside me didn't hesitate. It surged forward, and I let it. I drove my fist toward him fast, direct. It landed against his shoulder, not hard enough to do damage, but solid. My first real hit in 2 brutal weeks. Pride bloomed only to vanish when he grabbed my arm, spun me mid-air, and sent me crashing again. Except this time I landed on my feet, low, balanced, ready. A ghost of something like a smile tugged at Kale Duskthorn's lips. Progress. 1 word. But it hit me like a thunderclap. I shouldn't have cared. I shouldn't have needed it, but I did. The session ended with my muscles screaming and lungs burning, but a strange exhilaration carried me through the fatigue. I'd finally cracked something open. As I headed back toward the keep after the afternoon study session with Thorn, Lyra Wendell appeared in my path, her face tight with concern. The council's gathering, she whispered urgently. They're meeting about you. My stomach dropped. What exactly about me? Nyla's been pushing for restrictions. She says you're a risk, that if your powers go unchecked, you could fracture the pack's bonds. She glanced nervously over her shoulder. And the thing is, she's gaining traction. People are scared, Sira. They don't understand what your awakening means. And fear makes easy allies. What about Kale? I asked, trying to sound neutral. He's holding the line. He insists your training continues, but... She hesitated. The pack's dividing. The border raids are getting worse. Everyone's looking for someone to blame. Before I could respond, a sudden roar rose from the front of the keep. Shouts, snarls, a growl that was too deep to be human. Lyra's eyes went wide. Stay here, she ordered. But that second heartbeat inside me had already surged forward. I moved without thinking. The courtyard was Chaos Pack members in partial shift surrounded a group of newcomers. and at the center of it all stood a man like ice-made flesh. Broad-shouldered, silver-blonde eyes like frozen steel. His presence was arctic cold, but it radiated power like wildfire. Kael stood before him, barely restrained fury, etched into every line of his body. "You enter my territory without warning," Malric Kael said, voice like thunder. "Explain yourself, before I treat this as a declaration of war." So this was Malric Frostglen, the one Julian had warned about, the man building an empire in the east. I instinctively pressed back against a stone pillar, half hidden in shadow. War Malris's voice was smooth, slightly accented, elegant poison. "Please, Alpha Duskthorn. I come only to offer an invitation." His gaze swept the courtyard, then locked onto me. He smiled. "Ah, there she is. The granddaughter of Stormvale." Kael shifted just enough to block his view of me. "Say what you came to say," he growled, "and leave." "Very well," Malric replied, voice carrying effortlessly. "In 3 days' time, the Summit of Territories will convene. All packs are expected to send delegates to address the rising threat of human hunters and confirm new territorial lines." His eyes turned glacial. "The Silverblood Alliance formally invites the Northern Territories, including your newly awakened bloodline bearer." The gathered pack stirred. Whispers erupted around us. I remembered Thorn mentioning the summit only once, vaguely, but clearly it was no small matter. "The summit has always been neutral ground," Kael said. "We don't need your invitation to attend." "True," Malric replied, "but with the roads what they are, safe passage is harder to ensure without sponsorship." He gestured to his people, wolves in black leathers, all armed, all still. "We control the eastern approaches. It would be a shame if your delegation ran into trouble." It wasn't a threat, it was a warning dressed as diplomacy. I felt a surge of heat in the air, anger. From Kael. So potent I didn't need to see his face to know. My senses flared, reading it like static on the skin. "We'll be there," he said, voice flat as stone. "Now leave my land." Malric bowed, mock formal. "Until the summit, then." But as he turned to leave, his gaze returned to me once more. "I knew your grandfather well, child. We'll speak again soon." When the gates closed behind him, the courtyard erupted. Voices clashed. Fears spilled into the open. Kael raised one hand. Silence fell like a curtain. "Council chamber. Now." Then his gaze snapped to me. "Sira, with me." The council room was a circle of cold stone and heavy wood. At its heart, a vast oak table scarred by time. Council members filed in, some wary, some angry. Nyla Greymire was already seated. Her glare could have sliced steel. "You can't be serious," she said as soon as Kael entered, not even pretending to wait. "You're taking her to the summit. She's not ready. She's untested, untrained. She's a liability. She'll be a target no matter where she is." Kael Duskthorn said, his tone like steel sheathed in ice. "At least at the summit, I'll be there to protect her myself. Protect her." Nyla Greymire let out a sharp laugh, cold and brittle. "Or are you trying to make sure Malric's pack doesn't claim her first?" She glanced at me, eyes gleaming with venom. We all saw how he looked at her, like something valuable, like something owned. I stiffened. My hands curled into fists. "I'm standing right here," I said sharply. Silence dropped like a stone. Heads turned. Some blinked like they'd just remembered I was even in the room. Kael's face was unreadable, but for the briefest moment I thought I caught something in his gaze, something like approval. "The Bloodline carrier will attend the summit," he declared. "Preparations begin immediately." Council dismissed. Chairs scraped. Cloaks swished. One by one the council members filtered out, some throwing me cautious glances. Others didn't bother hiding their suspicion. Only Nyla stayed behind. She didn't speak right away. But when she did, her voice was lower, more dangerous. You're making a mistake, Kyle, she said. Her bloodline might be pure, but her control is far from it. What happens when she lashes out in front of the territories? When she cracks a bond or loses her temper, I expected Kyle to dismiss her like always. But he surprised us both. He nodded. You raise a valid concern, counselor, which is why starting now, you'll oversee her diplomatic training personally. Nyla froze. Excuse me, you're our most experienced diplomat, Kale said smoothly. Who better to make sure she doesn't disgrace the Northern Territories? For a second, I thought she might explode, but instead that dangerous smile of hers crept across her lips. Of course, Alpha, she purred. I'd be honored to guide her, personally. When she left, I turned to Kyle, my voice sharp with disbelief. Are you out of your mind? She hates me. Exactly, he replied, which means she'll never let you fail in public. Because if you fall, she looks weak, or she'll sabotage me to prove her point. That faint, maddening ghost of a smile touched his lips. Then you'd better stay sharp, wouldn't you? He started toward the door but paused beside me. His voice dropped just enough to make my chest tighten. You did well today. In the ring. And in there, he nodded toward the council chamber. You didn't back down. That quiet praise hit harder than it should have. I still don't understand why my presence matters so much. Why the summit? Why Mikhail turned to face me fully. His gaze was heavy, direct. The bloodlines were once everything to us, he said. They were our foundation, the true power of our kind. Over time, intermarriage with humans diluted that power. But some, like the Silverbloods, believe only the pure should lead. Only the untouched deserve to rule. And me, I whispered. What am I in all this? His expression didn't shift, but something flickered in his eyes. You're proof that the old strength still exists. To some that makes you a symbol, to others a threat, and to you, Kyle's silence. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter, almost unreadable. You're an unexpected variable, one I'm still trying to figure out. Later that evening, I sat hunched over a thick book on diplomatic customs under the dim golden light of the library lamps. Across the table, Nyla watched me like a vulture, silent, calculating, waiting. That's when Riker Ashvale burst in tension, sharp across his face. His usual laid-back energy was gone. We've got a problem, he announced. 3 patrol members from the northern perimeter haven't checked in, and he tossed something small onto the table. It landed with a clink. A silver arrowhead. The light from the lamp made its surface gleam, sleek, polished. Lethal. Hunters, Nyla muttered, forgetting our feud for one brief moment. They've never come this close to the keep. Something's changed, Riker said grimly. Or someone's leading them. Nyla's eyes cut to me. The implication was clear. I ignored her. I was focused on the arrowhead. Even without touching it, that second heartbeat inside me began to pound, hard, painful, like it was warning me. I knew. That thing had drawn blood from our kind. I didn't need proof. I felt it. They're coming, I whispered. Not just hunters. Others. The room went still. Because they believed me. Because something in my voice wasn't just guessing. It knew. The Silverbloods are using the hunters as cover. The words slipped out before I could question them. Riker Ashvale and Nyla Greymeyer turned to stare at me. But it was Kale Duskthorn who had entered the room silently behind his brother, that reacted with grim certainty. How do you know? He asked. I hesitated. The truth was, I didn't know how I knew. It hadn't come from books or whispers, or even training. It had just risen from within. I felt it, I whispered. The silver it carries echoes. Like it remembers where it's been, what it was made to do. Kale's eyes narrowed. Bloodline sensing, he murmured. Another ability waking up. He turned sharply to Riker. Double the patrols. No one walks alone from now on. Then to Nyla, call the council. We leave for the summit at dawn. A full day early. His gaze locked on mine. Gather what you need. Training continues on the road. I opened my mouth to protest. I'm not ready. I admitted the fear rising beneath my skin like frost. None of us ever are, he said simply. But the game has already begun, whether we like it or not. That night, I packed in silence. There wasn't much. A few things I'd gathered during my time at Ravenwood, items that had begun to feel like mine. But it was more than that. I could feel the pack shifting. The bonds between us, once quiet threads, were now tight and humming. Out there in the forest beyond the keep, other presences stirred. Cold. Silent. Getting closer. The hunters. The Silverbloods. And somehow, they were coming for me. Dawn arrived with a bruised sky, clouds heavy with the promise of storms. We left the keep like a military escort. 3 armored SUVs with blacked-out windows. Guards at every angle. The whole thing was timed down to the second. I was placed in the center vehicle with Kyle Riker, and of course Neela. Stay close to me at all times, Kyle said, eyes locked on the winding road ahead. The summit grounds are neutral, yes, but accidents do happen, especially to those who weren't invited. Neela added her smile, all teeth. She had spent the previous night drilling diplomatic protocol into my skull until my vision blurred. 12 territories, countless blood feuds, fragile alliances, titles and ancient customs. It was a minefield masked in civility. The summit takes place at Crescent Falls, Riker explained, trying to keep the mood lighter. It's a sacred site chosen after the Great Division, when the first pack split. 3 days of debate, ritual, and political backstabbing, he added. It's a blast. Eventually the road curved into a hidden valley. Stone structures emerged from the trees, buildings older than memory. A waterfall spilled down a sheer cliff in a perfect arc, silver and furious. Beautiful, isn't it? Riker murmured. The old shifters knew where to build their sanctuaries. As we neared the gates, my senses tightened. Something in the air shifted like a hand pressing against my chest. Kyle noticed. Boundary wards, he said. Ancient magic ensures peace. No shifting, no attacks. At least, it's some protection, I muttered. Don't be so sure, he replied. Words cut deeper than claws in these halls. Stone-faced guards met us at the entrance. They escorted us to our assigned quarters, a series of elegantly built rooms overlooking the edge of the valley. But peace didn't last long. Messages began flooding in. Some were formal welcomes. Others, sharper, more inquisitive. Nyla sorted through the envelopes with practiced precision. They're testing our position, she said, trying to confirm if the rumors are true that a pure bloodline has returned. Her emerald eyes flicked toward me. They'll all want to see you, weigh your worth, maybe even try to claim you. Some will promise protection, others power. Then for once her voice softened. Trust none of them. That's the only rule worth remembering here. That evening, the summit officially began. The great hall was like something pulled from legend. Vaulted ceilings, banners of all 12 territories, fluttering from the beams, stone walls lit by thousands of candles. I entered beside Kyle, wearing a silver-blue gown Nyla had chosen. It shimmered faintly under the lights, marking me with the colors of the northern territories. Conversations died the second we stepped inside. Heads turned, eyes followed. Every face tracked our steps. I kept my chin high, remembered Nyla's words, never show weakness. They're hunting for it. And then, cutting through the crowd like frost on glass, Malric Frostglen. He moved toward me with that same glacial calm. The bloodline carrier, he said, taking my hand before I could pull away. His skin was ice. My second heartbeat reared back inside me, warning me, danger. You've stirred quite the storm, my dear, he said, still gripping my hand. A pure lunar line. Awakening after so many generations. Remarkable Malric Frostglen said, his arctic gaze studying me like I was a rare, unpredictable storm. Thank you for your welcome, territory leader, I replied carefully, using the formal phrasing Nyla Greymire had drilled into me for hours. I'm still learning what it truly means to carry such a legacy. His smile tightened, but it didn't touch his eyes. I knew your grandfather well. Varen Stormvale was a formidable ally once, until he chose another path. Before I could respond, Kael Duskthorn stepped in, his voice smooth as steel. You'll forgive Sira if she doesn't take your word on Varen's intentions. As she said, she's still learning our ways. Malric's expression cooled further, barely perceptible, but there. Of course, he said, after a pause. We all have much to learn from the choices of those who came before us. He bowed sharp and shallow. Enjoy the summit, Bloodline carrier. I look forward to our next conversation. As he walked away, I let out the breath I hadn't even realized I was holding. He's terrifying, I whispered to Kael. He means to be, Kael replied. He's built his reputation on fear. That's the first weapon he ever wielded, and still his favorite. The rest of the evening blurred into a dizzying procession of introductions. Territory leaders, council representatives, high-ranking envoys, they all came with fixed smiles and calculating eyes. I felt like a relic under glass, something fragile yet dangerous. Every move I made was measured. Every word weighed for weakness. By the time we reached our quarters, my head throbbed with the effort of staying poised under such scrutiny. My second heartbeat beat erratically in my chest, like it was overwhelmed by the swirl of conflicting energies I'd encountered. We stopped outside my door. Kael turned toward me. You held your ground, he said unexpectedly. Better than most would in your place. Coming from him, it might as well have been a thunderous compliment. I still don't understand what they want from me, I admitted quietly. His expression shifted, softening just a trace. Each bloodline carried something unique, he said. The Arctic for raw power, the desert for healing, the mountain for foresight. But the Lunar... He hesitated, choosing his words. Your line was known for connection, for the bonds that tie pack to pack. The realization clicked into place like an iron lock snapping shut. Victor wants me to use that, to forge false bonds with the territories he's already taken. Kael nodded grimly. And others fear that power, the ability to bind or fracture alliances, to tilt the balance with nothing more than a touch. But I don't know how to do any of that, I said. I haven't even shifted. You will, Kael said simply. It's already stirring inside you. I've seen it, in training, in the way you sense the pack. His eyes met mine, sharp and certain. Which is why you cannot fall into silver blood hands. Not under any circumstance. That night, sleep refused to come. The second heartbeat pulsed insistently, stronger than usual, urging, pushing. When I closed my eyes, I saw it. Not dreams threads, glowing filaments stretching from our quarters like a web of light. I could feel Kael's presence, quiet and anchoring. Riker's signature pulsed warm and steady. Even Nyla, distant and cold. Beyond them, dozens more, hundreds. A living symphony of energy. Pack bonds, territory links, loyalty and suspicion flowing in tangled harmony. And then, something wrong. A shadow on the thread. A presence that didn't belong. My eyes flew open. A figure moved in the corner of my room, detached from the shadows. Don't scream, a voice said calmly. It would only make this more complicated. Lyra Wendell stepped into the moonlight, but something was off. Gone was her usual deference. She moved with quiet power, with the same poised danger I'd seen in enforcers. Her eyes reflected the silver-blue glow of the moon, not human at all. You're not Pack, I said softly, as instinct and bloodline sense connected the dots. You never were, she smiled. Clever girl. No, I'm not northern born. I serve someone else. Malric, I guessed. My hand inched toward the alarm button Kyle had made sure was installed beside my bed. She moved faster than thought. Her fingers closed around my wrist like a steel trap. Not exactly, she whispered. He thinks I serve him. But my true loyalty lies elsewhere. She let go but didn't move aside. I came to warn you, Sira. Tomorrow at the Summit Council, Malric will challenge Kyle's right to be your guardian. He'll invoke ancient laws, rules that demand bloodline carriers be placed in neutral custody. My heart, both of them, beat harder. Why are you warning me? I asked. If you're a spy, why sabotage his plan? Lyra's face turned serious. Because my master doesn't want you controlled. He believes your strength lies in freedom. She stepped closer. Her voice dropped. The Lunar line is unlike the others. While the rest chased strength, dominance, war, yours was built for balance, for unity, for peace. And in times like these, that's what the world needs most. I stared at her, my voice shaking. Then who do you really serve, Lyra? Wendell shook her head, her silhouette sharp against the moonlight. He was close to Varen Stormvale, closer than anyone knew. And he understood why your blood had to be hidden. She turned toward the open window, her expression unreadable. When Malric Frostglin challenges tomorrow, you must invoke the right of bloodline choice. It's ancient law forgotten by many, but it still holds weight. You name your own guardian. I swallowed hard. And you want me to choose your master? Lyra's lips curled into a cryptic smile. Choose with both hearts, Sira Coldmere. One sees the world as it is. The other sees what it means. Without another word, she vaulted silently through the window and vanished into the night mist. I didn't hesitate. I triggered the alarm. Moments later, Kael Duskthorn arrived with Riker Ashvale and two of the keep's enforcers, their faces taut with focus. We swept the grounds, but there was no trace of Lyra. Not a single scent footprint or shimmer of energy left behind. Inside the strategy chamber, I recounted everything. She said it's called the right of bloodline choice, I told them, and that I can invoke it, to choose who protects me. Thorn Virillo adjusted his glasses, already flipping through an old scroll. It's real, he murmured. Rare, almost forgotten. But it was designed for exactly this kind of crisis. Nyla Greymeyer's expression tightened. It's too convenient. She's baiting you into dividing the summit before alliances even stabilize, or giving her a lifeline, Riker countered. If Malric makes a move with legal grounds, we need every defense available. Kyle had remained silent, his arms crossed as he listened. Now his gaze cut through the room. Forget politics. What does your sense say, Sira? What did your bloodline tell you about her? I closed my eyes, reaching into the memory of that moment, that stillness in her eyes. She wasn't lying about not serving Malric, I said quietly. She believes in something else. But she's not clean. She's keeping something back. Kyle nodded slowly. Then we proceed carefully. If Malric makes a move, you invoke the right. But until then, we reveal nothing. The next morning broke with a cold, clear sky, sunlight gleaming like steel on stone. The summit's amphitheater was already filling as we took our seats. Water from the falls roared behind the council circle, a powerful ancient sound that made the air feel electric. Kyle sat among the 12 leaders. I sat just behind him, the way protocol demanded. Malric Frostglin didn't waste time. He stood, his voice smooth and commanding. Before we address matters of human incursions, I raise a concern of bloodline law. Dozens of heads turned. The energy in the space shifted instantly. The Northern Territory harbors a newly awakened lunar bloodline carrier, the first pure manifestation in over a century. And yet, she remains under questionable guardianship. A ripple of unease moved through the crowd. The law is clear, Malric continued. Carriers must be placed with the territory best equipped to protect and foster their gifts. I, as the leader of the strongest alliance and descendant of the Arctic line, petition for guardianship of Sira Coldmere. Kael rose, his voice firm, deliberate. Sira has been under my protection since her awakening. Her progress has exceeded expectations. There's no basis for this claim. Malric's gaze darkened. Your borders have been breached. 3 dead, others missing. Your leadership is compromised, Duskthorn. Gasps echoed through the amphitheater. The words landed like cold blades. I hadn't known there were confirmed deaths, only missing patrols. But now the truth was laid bare before everyone. I felt the rage swell in Kael through our bond. It pulsed through me like a drumbeat. But before he could respond, I stood. I invoked the right of bloodline choice. A stunned silence fell like a wave crashing over stone. Isela Thornwind, the ancient summit elder, rose slowly. Her voice rang clear and powerful. The bloodline carrier invokes her right. Approach the circle, child. I stepped forward, heart pounding both hearts. As I reached the center of the circle, something inside me shifted. Sight bent. I could see them. Not just faces, not just expressions, but threads. Currents of energy and emotion tying one territory to another. Tension, loyalty, betrayal, bonds. I stand before the council as a carrier of the lunar line, I said, my voice steady. And by ancient law I declare my choice with both hearts. One sees the world, the other sees its truth. I turned slowly, facing each territory leader in turn. Their faces blurred, but their energy glowed like fireflies in a storm. I kept turning, ready to name the one I trusted, ready to change everything. When I faced Kael Duskthorn, something deep inside me shifted. The pulse of the bloodline no longer stood apart. It surged forward, no longer a whisper, but a roar, merging with my own heartbeat, my own mind. And in that moment, I saw him. Not just the alpha, not just the force of command, but the man who carried the full weight of a fractured world on his shoulders. A leader shaped by loss, forged by duty, but still standing. I choose the Northern Territory as my home, I said loud enough for the entire amphitheater to hear, and Kael Duskthorn as my guardian. The words didn't just echo, they ignited. In a flash of blinding radiant energy, the threads I had once only felt now blazed into view. Silver blue lines, arcing out from my chest, linking me to Kael. Then to Riker Ashvale Thorn Virilo. Even Nyla Greymire spreading like wildfire through the northern delegation. Gasps erupted across the crowd. This was no mere ceremony. This was the awakening of the lunar line in its full ancient power. Malric Frostglen's face twisted in fury. This changes nothing. The Silverblood Alliance has been overruled. Cut in Isela. Thornwind, her voice sharp as a blade. The right has been invoked. The choice made. And it seems... She turned to me, her old eyes shining with something almost reverent. The bloodline has chosen too. The council broke into stunned murmurs. As we left the amphitheater, whispers followed us like the wind. And yet something inside me had gone still, grounded, whole. The second heartbeat that once felt alien now pulsed with mine, no longer separate. It wasn't something I carried. It was something I was. What happens now? I asked Kael, quiet in the hush of dawn. He looked at me with a warmth I rarely saw in him, real unguarded. Now, we go home. The summit will carry on, but your place, it's sealed. You've claimed it, and no one can take that from you. And the Silverbloods. The hunter's still out there, he said, eyes steeling. Still dangerous. But now you don't face them alone. You face them with us, with your pack. His words struck a chord so deep, I nearly trembled. This is what Myvi Moonrest had tried to prepare me for. This was the gift Elira Wrenshade had kept locked away until the world was ready. And I was finally ready to meet it. 3 days later, we returned to Ravenwood Keep. But I wasn't the same woman who'd left it. Something had shifted between all of us. Riker's teasing now came with real trust. Thorne's lectures had become eager exchanges. Even Nyla Greymire, cold and calculating, offered a begrudging nod of approval when I passed. And Kyle, whatever tether existed between us, had strengthened something more than duty. Less than romance, but undeniably powerful. A bond still unspoken, but never denied. That night, I stood alone on the battlements. The forest stretched out under a silver moon, and I felt every heartbeat in the valley below, each one distinct, each one mine. Feeling them, Kael's voice broke the quiet as he stepped beside me. I nodded. All of them. It's overwhelming, but it's beautiful too. He was silent for a beat. Your grandfather would be proud. The Lunar line was never meant to dominate. It was meant to connect, to unify. I didn't do it for legacy, I said. I did it because it felt right. Because my heart, both hearts, told me it was. His hand brushed mine, warm grounding. There will be more trials. Malric isn't done. The hunters are getting bold. And your powers, they're still unfolding. I turned to him, no longer the girl who had once trembled at his command. Then it's a good thing I have a fierce teacher, and a pack worth fighting for. He smiled. Not the ghost of a smirk, but something real. Something earned. Something whole. And in that moment, I understood what it meant to be of the bloodline. Not just werewolf. Not just human, but something in between. A bridge between worlds. A pulse of connection in a time of division. The second heartbeat. Now simply mine. It pulsed in perfect harmony with the rhythm of the pack. I had found my place, claimed my truth. And for the first time since that altar burned beneath my hands, I was finally home.